So you all know me. I'm Elsie. I'm Australian. I live here in Vancouver. I've been living here for nearly 3 years. My canniversary, as I like to call it, is on August 1st. So that'll be my 3 years in the Northern Hemisphere, 3 years here in Canada. It's been a wild ride. I love it. Thanks for having me, Canadians. If you have subscribed to Keela's public newsletter, it's one sent by David every week. It's called Weekly Alert. It's sent out every Friday. You'll know we do a bunch of webinars called Key Labs. I think we do about 2 a month sometimes, and they're kind of like industry best practices, and they're aimed at everyone in the nonprofit industry, not just Keela customers. We're kind of trying to build education and get sort of thought leaders in. But I wanted to have a space that was just for Keela customers. So we created Care Labs, not to be confused with Key Labs. So this space is just for folks who are using the Keela system, and we take a lot of that best practice knowledge and put it to the context of Keela and just kind of have a discussion and get everybody talking. And we announce them. I announce them in my newsletter on the first Thursday of every month. So look out for it there. And I often do like a little in-app announcement or something as well to let folks know in case you miss the newsletter. As we're all getting a bunch of emails in our inbox anyway. So brilliant. Okay. I'm going to be doing an agenda today. Normally I don't have an agenda, but I want to give you some hope at the end that it won't just be me talking the whole time. We'll have questions. So, sorry, pretend you didn't see that. That was a bit of a spoiler. So I'm just going to do a brief introduction about automation, what it is, why we're doing it, and then I'll do a demonstration to show you sort of the basics of how it's used. You can get an idea of how easy it is and sort of understand the concepts of it. Then I'll go through some examples that we've come up with in the customer care team for how to use automation, so you can get like some creative wheels spinning and kind of think about how you can put those examples into the context of your organization. And then lastly, we'll have questions. And here's the thing I wanted to mention. So automation is a really new tool. I know nearly as much as I know about it, you're going to learn in this webinar. So I'll do my best to answer all questions, but if I don't know the answer to something, I'll find out for you after the webinar, and I'll pop it into the recording email that I send out so everyone will get the benefit of it. But I don't know, I'll do my best. We'll see. Maybe I'll be able to answer them. I've surprised myself in the past. Let's get started though. So I've been working at Keela for nearly those 3 years that I've been at Canada. Pretty much 1 month here and I went straight to Keela. So it's my Canadian experience. And the first thing I learned day one was that nonprofits have one of the toughest jobs in the world, because you're often one person does the job of 5 people without the recognition, because there's nobody there to give them recognition because that person's doing 5 jobs, and so on and so forth. And folks are stretched pretty thin. And you don't have the time to engage with your contacts and your donors and your volunteers in the way that a giant corporation might be able to, but you really need to, right? It's really tough because time spent engaging folks directly correlates to improvements to donor retention, donor stewardship, and a bunch of other things that make a nonprofit organization more effective. So it's a catch-22, and it's a really tough one. So we wanted to create a tool that would give folks the power to reach a large number of contacts in a personal way without having to perform a bunch of manual tasks to do it. So it would be automated. Reach heaps of people, make it personal, make it automated. Enter automation. So we call this new tool automation, and it's pretty wild. I'm very impressed with it. It allows you to choose one or more triggers to start a workflow, so which will automatically lead your contacts through a series of actions in Keela without you needing to do a thing. So if someone comes in, this happens, then this happens, then this happens. And meanwhile, you're off hopefully drinking cocktails out of coconuts because you don't need to do all this work anymore. That'll be the day. So the journey that the contacts are on, it follows a series of if-then statements. And what that means is, if this happens, then this should happen. If this happens, then this should happen. So it's kind of like little branches and forks in the road. And you can have a bunch of them. It's sort of like a choose your own adventure, but you choose it once and then the contacts get to experience those adventures as they roll through. So it's a premium feature tool. And this is kind of a first for Keela. because it's been an absolutely massive project to build. It's taken us quite a while, and it's a really new avenue for us. It's going to completely change the way that you can use the existing tools in Keela, so eBlast and forms and things like that. So not only is it a new tool, it enhances all of the existing tools. And it also means that we're going to be doing tenfold more work to maintain and facilitate it. And it's really complicated work. We're going to have to hire more people and things like that to facilitate it. So it's increased the capabilities of Keela tenfold, but it also means a cost in running it, in running the tool and running Keela. And it requires a lot more work because it's so robust. And that's an entirely new cost outside of subscriptions. None of us took that into account when we were sort of setting up people's subscription costs. So what do? Do we increase everyone's subscriptions costs to cover it? No way, we can't do that. That's not what Keela's about. Keela's about grandfathered pricing and about sort of being the lowest possible denominator. We're a B Corp, right? So the solution was to make it an add-on. If you see the value in automating your communications, you can purchase it, add it to your Keela account, no worries. And the add-on cost will go towards facilitating all of that myriad of extra processes, extra emails that we're going to be sending out, and all the new things that'll be possible with your existing account, and all the enhancements that we're going to make in the future. But if you feel as though it's not something you can have right now, that's also fine. We're going to keep adding enhancements and tools to the system that are completely within your subscription cost as well. Nothing's going to change there. In fact, we're going to be releasing a couple of enhancements in the upcoming months. One is to recurring subscriptions. Everyone's been waiting for that one, and to reports as well. So stay tuned for that. Pretend you didn't hear it here first. Act surprised. So by the end of this webinar, I hope that you'll understand how this tool will save you literal hours of time and also increase your ability to fundraise or make connections with contacts. And hopefully, if you crunch the numbers on time saved and increase fundraising, you might find that the cost pays for itself within the first month or so. But it's just the beginning of where Keela's headed, and we're always going to be introducing new tools and new features that are included within your subscription. That's just who we are. Oh, it's not question time yet. It's demonstration time. Let's get in there. Let's see this beautiful new tool. So we've added a whole new section in the sidebar for automations, just like we have for eBlast and forms. And you basically want, if you purchase it, if it's an add-on you want to put into your Keela account, it'll appear here and you'll be able to navigate it. And, just like you add an eBlast or you add a form. So once you're in the automations, pretty standard Keela operation. You've got a big purple button that says create workflow, and you start from there. So I'm going to call this one, let's say for this example, I'm going to use the example of, I want to create a workflow that welcomes automatically any new contacts that are added to my Keela account. I think that's a nice example because whether you're fundraising or you're just using email marketing or anything like that, everybody's going to be adding new contacts to their Keela account. So let's call my workflow for this example, just to give you a taste of how it works. New welcome workflow. Genius, so creative. And we'll go ahead and we'll add it. Okay, first things first, when you're creating a workflow, it's going to be a kind of funnel that folks are going to come down into, and they're going to fork off into different directions depending on the stuff that you put here. So first things first, we need to tell Keela who is going to be added to this workflow. What's the starting point? Where does it begin? And that's just the first step here. We need to choose a starting point. The really cool thing is you can add as many starting points as you like for one workflow. So maybe this happens and the contact comes in, or this happens, or this happens. And folks can join from any different way. I'm going to start simple today though, because I'm still learning too, right? So we'll just choose a starting point. And there are a couple of different starting points that you can choose from. And up here, you can select from all of them. We've combined them all into all starting conditions. If you're not sure or you're just playing around with it and you want to see all the ones that are available in one big list, or we've separated them out into sections as well. So the contact starting point, they relate to people or companies. So at things like when a new contact is added, we'll come back to that. That's something I'm going to need. If a contact suddenly joins a segment, like suddenly something changes and they suddenly match the filters of a segment and they enter in and automatically triggers this kind of workflow. If a tag is added, or my personal favorite, if someone completes a form. That's my favorite one. So that kind of stuff that's happening to contacts or contacts are doing. The next set of starting points are transactions. So pretty standard stuff. Did the contact make a transaction, or did they set up a recurring transaction? Pretty handy, but self-explanatory. And then emails. I think this is going to be everybody else's favorite, but maybe you'll all love my favorite of filling in a form, who knows? But this is all things to happens in relation to emails. So contacts receiving some form of email from your organization in their inbox. If they receive the email, you can trigger the workflow. If they open the email, trigger the workflow, or if they click on a specific link within that email, you can trigger it. And those are the ones that we have available at the moment. Always open to ideas and suggestions. So let's get back to it. So in this example, I'm wanting to welcome all new contacts that are added to my account, Tequila, and I'm going to want to send them a welcome email. So we'll go to contacts because it's relating to people, and I'm going to select new contacts added. But of course, we're not just going to leave it there. We want to give you even more options to customize it, because that's what Keela is all about, making things even more minute and detailed. So there are a bunch of different ways that a contact can be added to Keela. And I don't want this welcome email to be sent for all of them, right? I only want it for sort of specific events. So the first possible entry point is manually logged in-app. So this means if a team member manually logs a contact, do I want a welcome email? For sure, I definitely do. I'm going to keep that one ticked. The next is donation forms, and we've got revenue and all the other forms as well. And what that means is if a new contact with a completely unknown email address that Keela's never heard of fills in one of your Keela donation forms, they'll be automatically added to your account, right? So Keela's like, well, do you want new contacts added from all of your donation forms to receive this welcome email? And I tend to say no. In fact, I think I'm going to untick all donation forms, revenue forms, and membership forms. Because in this case, they'll be like first-time donors, right? If they're new contacts and they're making a donation, you've never heard from them before, they're probably going to have their own workflow. In fact, I'll show you an example later of a first-time donor welcome email that I might do. Or, you know, if I have membership forms, for example, say I've got 5 different membership forms, I have a specific welcome pack for my bronze members or my silver members or my gold members. And I'm going to send them that pack with, all the benefits they get and maybe some vouchers or something like that. So I'm just going to remove that. It's too much for me to handle right now. I've got some other ways I can specify that. Next is subscription forms. So Keela has a subscription form, an email sign-up form where folks can put in their email address and opt in to receive marketing communications for you. If you put that on your website and if a new person fills it in, they'll be added to Keela. I'm going to keep this one ticked. I don't care what subscription form it is. If someone signs up through a subscription form, most likely my newsletter sign-up form, I want them to receive this. So I'll keep that ticked. But custom forms I'm going to untick because I've got a million custom forms. I use it for my volunteer registration, my event RSVPs. I use it for all the different stuff. So I want to keep it sort of more specific. So I'll untick that. And then at the bottom, this is where I get to pick and choose which forms I'd like. So instead of having all donation forms, maybe I want to choose one donation form in here. So I'll tick this and I can just choose from my list of forms. So even if you just want to untick all the forms just to be safe and only tick the specific forms that you want, that could be a good option too. Because that way, if someone accidentally adds a custom form in the future and they don't realize that this workflow is going on and that you've got custom forms ticked, someone won't accidentally get a welcome email that they're not supposed to get or things like that. So if in doubt, choose specific forms, which I'm going to do here. I've got a custom form that is an expression of interest form. I'm going to select that and I'm going to save. First step done. We have a starting point. We know who exactly is going to be entered into this workflow. So the funnel has a beginning, an opening, if you will. And like I said, you can add as many as you want. So you can just click here to add more. It's up to you. If you need to make any changes to any of the elements that you're adding to your workflow at any point along here, you can just click on it and you can make changes, or you can remove it, or you can save it. Really easy to update things. You can even add filters if you're wanting to take it even further. You can add match contacts with filters, and you can add some filters in there to make it really specific. You can remove board members tag or something like that to make sure that no staff members come through. It's up to you, but I'm keeping it really simple today. I'm going to have no filters. No filters. Got to walk before we can run. Okay, so we've got a starting condition. Everything's good. Keela knows where we're going, but it doesn't know what we're going to do yet. And that's where these stages come in. So stages are the most important part of your workflow. It's when you're telling Keela that something should happen. It's kind of the bread and butter of the workflow. So we've got a starting point. Let's add a stage. So there are 4 different stages. Some of them are really simple. Some of them are really robust. I'll do a quick run through of them today. So we've got if, else, and you can tell kind of by the icon here, it gives you a clue at sort of what's happening. So it's a fork in the road, right? It's a way of you to tell Keela, put up a checkpoint here, so that when a contact is moving through this workflow, they'll hit this checkpoint and Keela will ask a question of that contact. Does this contact match this filter? And if the answer is yes, they're going to branch off down here. And if the answer is no, they're going to branch off down here. So it's a way of you to put a fork in the road, right? Wait for a trigger is another checkpoint. They're all kind of checkpoints, I suppose. Here, you're telling Keela to hold the contact in this checkpoint until something happens, until that trigger happens. So triggers are things like the contact needs to join a segment. So something needs to happen on that contact's profile so that they match the filters in a segment before they can move forward. Or they need to be added to a tag or make a transaction. Or my personal favorite, they need to complete a form. So maybe you sent them an email with a registration form and they need to complete it. And you're saying, hey, Keela, hold your horses, wait for them to complete that form before you send them the next step. Delay next stage is a great one. This is probably going to be a really highly used one, because this just lets you tell Keela to just hold its horses just for a specific amount of time. So it works in the same way as wait for a trigger, except it's just you're just waiting for some time. So I actually might add that now, because my contact has just been added. That was the entry point, right? I don't want to email them right away. I don't want to seem too keen. I want to play it a little bit aloof. So I might wait 24 hours. I'll wait a day before I send them the welcome email. So let's say we'll add that. We're going to add this stage, and I want to wait 1 day. And I'm going to save it. So now you can see my workflow starting to come together, right? We're starting to move down the line. A new contact is added, and first stage, wait 1 day. So Keela's just going to hold them there when they come through for 1 day. I want to add another stage. So I click on this little plus button, and we'll look at actions, the 4th one of the list. Actions is like the real magic of the workflows. You're going to have actions in every single workflow you use, because this is when you're asking Keela to do an automated action. This is sort of when something has to happen. And it's things like sending an email, notifying users or adding a to-do so you can interact with your team members, adding, removing tags, or updating some fields. So updating the priority, assigning tags, or notes. That's one of those actions that you can have. I think the most common one you're probably going to be using is send email. Traditionally, I think automations are somehow involved in emails, but we're not traditional people, are we? Who knows? So I'm wanting my workflow, once we've waited 1 day, I'm wanting to create a fork in the road. I want something to happen here and something to happen here, because I've got this idea, right? I have on my Keela account, in my Keela test account, a custom field that I've added to my organization, and it's called communication preferences. And I've added it to my newsletter sign up form so that if folks sign up through that, they get to choose how they prefer to be communicated with, whether it's email, phone, or mail. Admittedly, most people choose email, but I provided them with the option anyway. So I want there to be 2 different outcomes for this workflow, depending on that information that's provided in that custom field when they're filling out my form. How do we add a fork in the road, my friends? By using an if-else stage, not to be confused with if-elsey, as in if Elsie doesn't stop making stupid jokes, this webinar is going to go 10 minutes over. If else stage is that fork in the road. Let's add it. Beautiful. So we're asking a question. This is the time where Keela is saying, well, do you match these filters? Should you go this way or this way? And you've got access to all of the filters that you have in your Keela account. I think there's over 100. I tried to count them the other day when I was avoiding some work, and I got nearly over 100. So you have access to all of those things in here. And for me, I'm looking at contact information today. I want to use that custom field that I've created. So let's go custom fields. I'll go ahead and I'll search for it. And the custom field I'm talking about is one I've created. It's called communication preference. And I want to make sure that it contains any of email. I want to make sure that the fork in the road is, does this person have email in their custom field communication preferences? But I want to take it even further. I'm a complicated girl. Let's have 2 filters. Why not? The second filter I want is I want to make sure that they have an email address, right? If they don't have an email address, then if they go through the fork and end up with an email at the end, it's not going to make any sense. So my next filter is going to be primary email. And this time, I don't care what's in that field. It doesn't have to be anything specific, as long as there's something in there. So as long as the field is filled, we'll be right. So this is my question. This is my fork in the road. I'll go ahead and I'll save it. So folks are newly added to the system. We're going to hold them for 1 day, delay for 1 day. And when they get to this stage, Keela is going to say, hey, does this contact have email in this field? And do they have something in the primary email field? Is that true? Is that the question? And if the answer is yes, they're going to go down this path here. You can see that fork that has been created. And if the answer is no, they're going to go down this path here. So very exciting kind of thing. So if yes, if the answer is yes, that's really easy. I'm going to send them the welcome email, right? So I'll click add stage, and this time we're getting into the actions, and we're just going to have send email selected. So I'll go ahead and I'll add that, and you recognize this. Anyone who's using our eBlast tool, it's all the same functionality. It's just like you're creating an eBlast. You've got your from, your subject. Maybe I'll put a little subject in here. Welcome to the Papa project. Very inventive. And you can actually add attachments to it, right? Just like with a normal eBlast. So this would be a good point if you need to send something specific to people who've come through this workflow. So if you've got a volunteer waiver form that people need to sign, you could send it through now, or like a brochure or an information pack, anything that's a PDF document, or anything like that, things that you need to send that they need to sort of be able to download, you can add it here. So no more will you need to manually attach those documents. All right, let's add some content. And you've got the choice of all the different templates we've got, or any of your saved templates in here. So I've just got a welcome to the Papa project email. Sitting in here, save, everything's beautiful. Go ahead and save and continue. So if you're wanting to add, I'll just head to eBlast for a second. I would recommend creating all of your templates in advance. So starting here, creating your template so that you can select it from the saved templates in there, or you can build it from directly in the workflow. It's up to you. All right, let's head back to automation. I'm going to jump back into my new welcome workflow tab. Okay, brilliant. So there it is. There's my email that I've created. So they're going to, if the answer is yes, they're going to receive that email and then they're going to exit. Job's done. But if they don't match those conditions, if they don't have a primary email or they don't have email as their communication preference, then I'm going to click here and I want to do something else. Let's say I want one of my team members to manually follow up with them. Maybe we can give them a call if there's a phone number, or maybe there's a mailing address, or like even social media account. Maybe we can email them on Facebook or something. I don't know. We can still find some way of welcoming them, hopefully, and maybe even collect that email address so that communicating is easier in the future. Who knows? But the action I want here to happen is to add a to-do. I want someone in my team to follow up on this. So what will we call this to-do? Let's make it pretty vague. I've got it all written out here, so you don't need to see me type and most likely do some typos. So we're going to say, try to reach out to the contact to give them a manual welcome. And then the details are, Let's try and see if there's another way to contact them. Can you check for a phone number or something along those lines? Oop. I'm going to say, let's make it due after 9 days. So as soon as the contact hits this stage, a to-do will be created for my team member and they have 9 days to complete it. Who am I going to assign it to? I might assign it to Nicole up here at the top. If I was going to receive a phone call welcome, I'd love it to be from Nicole. She's wonderful. She's new in our support team. And then you can add any attachments if you want, but you probably, I don't know, you might need to, but not in this case. Let's go ahead and save that. So that's what's going to happen there. So in 9 days, Nicole, or not 9 days, when the contact hits here, Nicole will have 9 days to try and attempt to do a welcome, but no worries if not. Sometimes you just can't do it. So this is my workflow. If I wanted to activate it, I could start it right now, and any new contacts who are added in after I click start right now, they're going to automatically be added to this workflow and move their way through. Or I can schedule a start time. So if I want it to start on, you know, if it's event registration or something like that, and the event doesn't open until July 30th, I could start it then or something like that, start it in the future. But I'm not ready yet. I want to talk through some settings first. So I'm going to jump to the settings tab and just run through a couple of different things that you should know about automation. The first thing is the email settings. So just let us know if you want us to be able to not send out emails to contacts who come through this workflow if we have an unknown subscription status. So if you're like, oh, I only want people to receive emails through this workflow if they've physically opted in and have an opted in email subscription status, you can adjust that here. Send email addresses with unsubscribed subscription statuses. So we've automatically put this as no, because very, very small cases when you'll ever need to email someone with an unsubscribed subscription status, but we wanted it to be possible just in case. And that's because there's two types of emails that you can send, folks. You can send the marketing emails, and those are the emails that you need to let people unsubscribe from. But there's also transactional emails. So if you do need to tell someone something important, whether it's about their donation or their donation receipt, that's the only time when you're allowed to email someone if they've gotten unsubscribed, as long as it's not marketing, if it's absolutely necessary. But keep it as no, because I think chances are that will never happen. I've never sort of seen it happen, but it's there as a contingency just in case, knock on wood. Next is re-enter the workflow. So for my workflow now, it's a welcome email. So I don't want contacts to receive it more than once. So I'm actually going to keep that toggled off. I don't want the ability for contacts to be re-entered into it and receive that and go down the path again and again. But if I created a workflow that was something along the lines of, maybe it was for donors who had made a really big contribution. Maybe I put a threshold of $5,000 or something like that. And I had a special workflow that thanked people who made massive donations in a really special way. I'd probably want that to be open, to be toggled open, because if someone keeps making $5,000 donations, I want to thank them with my special workflow. So you'll pick and choose. It'll depend on the nature of the workflow, right? But I'm going to keep it turned off. And then you've got the ability to exclude folks from your workflow. So you can have a whole segments here that you exclude. So if you've got sort of a segment for your board members or your staff members or your employees or something like that, and you're like, I don't want them to receive the same welcome email. Maybe you've got an employee welcome email or something like that. You could exclude them from this. Or you can manually exclude contacts. So for example, I had a big old chat with Daffy Duck the other day, and I was the one who added Daffy into the system, and I was on the phone with Daffy. So I gave him a big old Australian welcome. He doesn't need this welcome email. So I might jump in here and say, okay, I'll exclude Daffy Duck. I've manually welcomed him on the phone. But of course, you can bring him back out. If you change your mind and you're like, you know what, actually, there's some important information in there. I do want Daffy Duck to receive that welcome email. You could remove them from the exclusion list. Okay, last tab is this contacts tab up here, where you'll be able to see any manually enrolled contacts. And what that means is, similarly to this, you can also manually enter contacts into it. So I might say, okay, I've set this up today, but I think that any new contact that was added in the last 2 weeks could probably benefit from it. So I might go and find all the contacts who were added 2 weeks ago. Within the last 2 weeks, I might manually add them so that they get this welcome email, and I'll be able to see them in that list there. Active contacts is a way for you to see all the contacts who are currently moving through the workflow. So you just see what's going on. And completed contacts lets you see who has successfully finished the workflow. I'm going to show you that in real life when I look at some examples now. How am I doing for time? Oh, I'm 5 minutes over, but that's not too bad. We can make this up. 5 minutes are behind schedule. It's pretty good for me, actually. Focus, Elsie. So we've got automation here, and we have added all of these different examples to kind of get your brains ticking a little bit and to help us learn the system. And Maggie, who is there in the chat, has created one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, this volunteer sign up workflow, and she's made it active and got some entries in there so you can see things in action. So for anybody who has volunteers and has a volunteer sign up program, take note, this might be useful for you. So once a workflow has been made active, you'll get some stats on the overview page that might be useful. So you see the total number of contacts who've entered it, the ones that are in progress, and you'll also have a graph that shows you kind of the dispersion of when folks were entering it. All of these contacts were entered in on the 15th of July. So it's not a very fun graph, but if you've got sort of, if you have it over a long time, you'll be able to see spikes and things like that and be able to recognize patterns for yourself. You can also check out the exit performance. So see how, if you have different exits, because you've got different forks in the road, see who's going through the most. Maybe you can say, it seems like we're having, everybody's just signing up with an email address now. No one was going through the other fork where we had the to-do. Maybe we just get rid of it and don't worry about it. Things like that. And then any to-dos that are created because of it will be down here as well. So you can kind of see the actions that are happening and displayed in real time. But when I go to the workflow, things are a little bit different. I can't make any adjustments to an active workflow. I do need to pause it before I can edit it, which makes sense because if a contact's in the workflow, maybe you start working on it and they get an email before you're ready. Just make sure you pause it. And you'll see these little badges are added when contacts are moving. So if I click on this, I can see we've got 10 people in here. These are the 10 contacts who are at this point working through this workflow. So you'll be able to sort of see it in real time and see who's where. And if I go to the contacts here, you'll be able to see what I mean about viewing your active contacts and seeing the list and being able to check things. So maybe from here, I might pause them. In this stage, I might remove them from the sequence. I can unpause them or I can exclude them from here too. So pretty useful stuff. Let's go back to our examples. So I'm okay, I'm back on time now, back on track. So I wanted to show you some of the things we've come up with. So this was my first time donor thank you workflow here that I created. So here's the starting point. I've got when a contact makes a transaction and the transaction is a donation, but I also have the opportunity to select the time since last transaction to make it really, really specific. So we've given you the option of don't check, like don't worry about it. Anytime someone makes a donation, do this. Or if they're a first-time donor, in the case of this example, so anytime someone makes a donation and it's their very first donation, Keela will automatically calculate it for you here and enter them into the workflow. Or you've got within. So the time since their last transaction needs to be within 4 weeks or within 1 week. Maybe you're running a competition to see who can donate the most frequently. I'm not sure. You'll find more examples for that than I will. But this is a really good one as well, older than. So let's say it has to be older than 52 weeks for them to be entered into this workflow. And then that way people are only getting this special thank you message once a year or something like that. But we'll go with first time donor for this case. We'll save that. Okay, and then, sorry, excuse me. Sorry. So once we're in here, I've got the old delay for 1 day. That's my standard. And then they're going to get this thank you for supporting our organization. Here's what it means email. I give them a list of all the things that their money will go towards. So that's one example. I've got my lifetime donations, $5,000. So this is a workflow where Keela will automatically send out this email to say, congratulations, you're a Papa Project hero. Whenever a contact joins my segment, of lifetime donations equals 3,000. So I've set it up, I've set up a segment, I've filtered it out so it only includes contacts whose total donation amounts are 3,000 in this case. I thought it was 5,000. And they'll be automatically added to this workflow. They get this special email, but then also I've set it up so that we'll change their priority on their contact profile to be high. And I've also got it so that it automatically tags them with major donor as well. So it's keeping my kind of CRM up to date too. What else have we got? Oh, this is a good one. Event registration. This is a complicated one. So I wanted to show you how big it can get considering I did such a small example. So here's my workflow I've created for an event registration. And I'll scroll over. And as you can see, it's quite big. It got a little out of control. I started getting quite granular, but it's a good example of kind of the power of it. So I have an event coming up. It's my annual gala. And I wanted to send out invitations to everybody, but I wanted it to be a different process if you'd attended last year's annual gala. Because I figured those folks, I can prod them a little bit more and remind them a little bit more about it since they came last year. Whereas anybody who's never attended before, maybe I'll go a little easier. So the first things first, they're entered into the segment. I just put a tag on them and say they're an invite attendee, and they're automatically going to get entered into this segment. And then I've got a fork in the road. And it's if they attended, well, we're a year behind. If they attended the annual gala in 2019, it was yes, then they're going to go down this fork in the road. And if it's no, they're going to go down the other fork. If it was yes, we send them an email saying, join us at our annual gala. And then we wait for them to open that email. And if they open that email, that means they've read it, they know what's going on. Yes, I wait for them to complete the form, because within that email, I've got a registration form that lets them sort of RSVP, provide any special dietary requirements or anything like that. Let me know if they're bringing a +1. So we're over here. So they've opened the email, they've completed the form, yes. Then they're going to join in this segment, which is they'll join by completing the form. And if they said yes when they were completing the form, I am going to come. They're going to receive this see you there email, letting them know just some final bits and pieces of information. But if they said no when they were filling out the form, if they can't make it this year, we'll send them a see you next time email. And we've just got, it's just some reminders as well. So if I go over here, don't forget to RSVP if they didn't open that email. So this is the fork that goes down when they're maybe they were busy. I've waited 2 weeks, send them another email reminding them. If they open the form then it's the same thing. They either get a see you there email if they confirmed, or a see you next time if they said no. But then if they don't, so if they don't complete the form, so they've not opened the form, we've sent them a reminder, I'm waiting for them to complete that form. If they don't complete it, I might wait 30 days and send them one last email saying, hey, it's your last chance, seats are running out, this is the hottest event of the year. And then if they complete it, I send them the see you there, and if not, we'll just update their profile, their notes, and say they did not RSVP to the annual event. So it's sort of really powerful. It lets you be specific, but it lets you kind of adjust the way that you communicate with folks based on different actions and based on who they are. And then I've got a whole nother track over here for folks who never went to my annual gala, who've never been to one before. I send them an email, and then I wait for them to either open it or not. And if they don't open it, they don't open it. It's my favorite one. I've got time for one more example, but maybe you'll ask me about them in the questions as well. Let's look at recurring donations campaign. So this is a cool one. If you're running a campaign and you're trying to encourage more folks to give on an ongoing basis rather than once off, I've got a segment here that is excluding. So the filters here are they cannot be, so it does not contain, their segments field does not contain active recurring donors. So it's for all folks who aren't in that segment, and their donation frequency is between 10. So I'm like, okay, who are my contacts who aren't active donors, but they've given me at least 10 donations? So I know they're contributing on an ongoing basis, but just haven't set it up yet. Maybe I want a low-hanging fruit, maybe I can convert them. When they come in here, they get an email, make your gift one that lasts, trying to encourage them with a form that's only a recurring donation form, so they can click on it and they can fill it in and sign up. And then I wait until a recurring transaction is made. So a successful moving through that path would be, did they make a recurring donation? And if they did, we send them an email saying, thank you. This is exactly how that recurring donation is going to have a direct impact on our organization and really drive home that. And if not, maybe I'll wait 60 days and I might send them one more email, maybe. So that's sort of an example of that. Okay, I'm right on time, 12:15, 15 minutes of question time. I've talked a lot. I hope you're all still with me and excited about automation. Let's jump back here because it's time for questions. I'll just move this bar over here so I can see what I'm working with. Okay, we're going to chat. Ooh. Looks like I don't have any questions in the Q&A just yet. And it looks like Maggie's been answering these questions pretty much so far. Does anyone have any questions for me? No. That's a good sign. Brilliant. This is my second webinar in a row where there's been no questions. Oh, I hope it's not because I've just overwhelmed you with speaking. Oh, here we go. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Joy. Question. Are you all offering any services to build custom workflows for new subscribers to the service? I had honestly not thought of that, but that is a brilliant idea. And I am going to try and find a way to make that happen. Yeah, that sounds great. That would be awesome. I don't know what it's going to look like, but yes, Joy, at some point in some shape or form, we're going to be doing that because that's brilliant. I don't know how we'll do that. Stay tuned. I'll put something about it in the newsletter whenever that's available and whenever we decide how we're going to organize that. I love that. Yeah, for sure. 100%. Or maybe like a competition or something, or like a, yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. I love competitions. Anything I can put in the newsletter, basically, I love. We've got a question for Rebecca. Will this work at all with peer-to-peer stuff as it comes out? 100%, yes. It'll all be kind of interconnected with all the different components of Keela as well. And peer-to-peer is coming. We've got subscriptions, reports, and then peer-to-peer is next up. So it's on its way. Pricing info is different for everybody. So we don't really have like a pricing information on it, but I can show you how you can find your exact pricing. I can definitely do that. So if you jump into your account and if you just head over to your organization settings, we've got a new tab here for all of it. So you can see, if you down here, you can see the pricing that's available. The only thing you can't see is donor search. If you're from the US, we have donor search as an add-on that's available for US customers because it's a US organization. You won't see the pricing until you select your actual plan there. But yeah, it's right down here. You'll see it. It's billed annually. So just like our annual subscriptions. Can we do a trial? Oh, great question, Margot. I almost forgot this. Yes, we will be having free trials, and everyone who attended this webinar will have access to free trials. It's just we're still in the process of working that out. So we've got a couple of things on our roadmap to be released, and then free trials will be available, and you'll all be the first to know about it. Literally, you're on my list of people who I'm going to email saying free trials are ready. I think it'll be a 30-day free trial. Got one from Ruth. Are you having a webinar on how to increase regular donors, e.g. using automation process? Well, I mean, we definitely could. I always want ideas for webinars. I'll put that down on the list. I think increasing regular donors and recurring donors and campaigns like that are probably one of the most important things that we should examine, to be honest, because it's sort of like, especially for folks who are giving on an ongoing basis. So yeah, I'll put it on the list. I'll also talk to our marketing team about it because they've got all this knowledge of best practices. So maybe I can wrangle someone in from there. And maybe there's a time to do it, maybe around Giving Tuesday. Folks are sort of feeling a little bit more benevolent. Maybe that might be a good time to do it in the lead up to that. Leave that with me. I'll think about it. But yes, I will. That's brilliant. Elise, when do you expect this feature to be available? Is it live now? It's completely live now. It's in your account. If you want, you can go and purchase it right away just by going to, I was just there and I navigated away. Organization settings, premium, you just click on it. Oh, I've already got it available in my account. That's why I can't. but you just click on there'll be a little circle there for you, and you click on it and you can just select get feature, and it'll just come on, and it'll be, you'll get a pro rata charge, and then it'll just be added to your subscription every year, because it'll be renewing every year, just like your Keeler subscription. But it is annual. You do need to be on an annual subscription to be able to purchase it. I saw some other questions coming through. Are there any plans to expand the integration with Eventbrite so the transaction info is automatically imported? I was under the impression that the transaction information is automatically, but you have to select it. Sorry, yes, I see what you mean. I'm not sure. I'm not sure at all about that. I know that we do have Eventbrite on. It's in the roadmap, but the roadmap, if I'm being honest, it's miles long because everyone has such great ideas. We keep adding to it, so I'm not sure where it is on the roadmap or what it's going to include. I just know that it's in there, and I know that that specific question has been added to the product portal, so it's in our view, in our sphere, but I'm not sure. Any plans to integrate with more tools like Slack? I have never heard of us integrating with Slack, but I love the idea of that because I use Slack. So that would be brilliant. I'm not sure if that's in our product portal. I might have to add that to the product portal after it. But any recommendations for tools that you have, pop them in the product portal. If we could get Slack, that would be amazing for me. I noticed the extra training sessions aren't included in the plan. What about email support? So all email support, you're always going to have email support from us forever. And we have recently hit a milestone where our average response time is 3.9 hours, which I'm really pleased about, considering, we've grown so big that we're still able to do 3.9 hours first response time. Very pleased with that. But yeah, you can email us at support@keeler.com. We'll support you with automation. We'll support you with anything Keeler related. And we do things like record personal videos and demonstrations. We've got heaps of articles. Like, it's really hands-on support, I like to think. I'm very proud of it. But if you do want extra support, like if you want unlimited phone calls and one training session per month, you can access our premium care package here. So by purchasing that as a premium feature, you get unlimited phone calls. So you just book us in for 15-minute sessions. You can book as many as you like, really, as long as they're in advance, because that way you don't have to wait on hold and all that kind of stuff. You can get ready and be in a Zoom meeting and sort of run through some stuff. Or we have a suite of training sessions that you can choose from as well. That's Maggie's job. Maggie runs all that, so you'll be able to speak to Maggie. But yeah, there's an automation training session as well if you wanted one-on-one training with Maggie. Any more questions? Take this time to take a sip of water. It's been a while. Okay. Tentatively no questions. If you come up with any, just email us at support@keeler.com. We'll be there. We love questions. You'll speak to Nicole and Stefania, who are awesome. Maybe me sometimes. Sometimes I jump in there. I can't keep out. But thanks everyone for coming. This was really fun. I'm really excited about this. I'm really excited about where Keeler's going. I think it's going to be wild, but we're ready for it. And I think all of you are ready for it as well. So have a great day. Enjoy the next 7 minutes of your life. Go grab a coffee or something. Bye, everyone.